Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 181 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the elusive Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend, very good. Battling a bit of a flu, to be honest, but aside from that, everything is okay. The show must go on. Let's start with a review part. As always, we're going to start at the Mattamy Event Centre in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Once again, we said it on last week's show, Fabio Maldonado, the man that was supposed to fight Nathan Gorman last weekend. Well, not last weekend, because that's the fight that we're talking about when he took on this guy here. But the week before that, when Nathan Gorman fought Kevin Kingpin Johnson, it was supposed to be Maldonado. He pulled out, I believe, with an injury or something like that. But anyway, he turned up 7 days later in Ontario, like I say. And yeah, he took on Alexander Teslenko, a Ukrainian fighter based in Canada. It ended up going the distance, which is very unlikely, actually. Very unusual, I should say, for Maldonado's fights. They tend to end early. I think all but two in 27 outings have gone very early, or certainly within the distance. But anyway, Teslenko's now 16-0. It was for the vacant NABA heavyweight title, a unanimous decision there over 10 rounds. Also on the bill, Custio Clayton moved to 16-0, a knockout in round 6 against friend of the show, former world champion DeMarcus Corley. Quite sad there because Corley doesn't often get stopped, but he got stopped here, a knockout in round 6. His record now 51-33 with one draw. Custio Clayton, though, 16-0, could be one to look out for there. Moving out now to the Ulster Hall in Belfast, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom. This show was shown on IFL TV, a MTK Global show. As soon as I saw that the main event was Conrad Cummins against Luke Keeler, I already saw their first fight. It wasn't close, and Luke Keeler won it pretty easily. I'm told that this fight was a complete barn burner, a real argument for fight of the year, but I didn't watch it, unfortunately, and it was the same outcome, another unanimous decision for Luke Keeler. I looked at the scorecards, he won it very wide once again. Please don't make a third fight. Conrad Cummins doesn't need to take another L, but his record is now 16-3 with one draw. He was for the WBO European Middleweight title. Luke Keeler now 16-2 with one draw. Stephen Ward picked up win number 10 there on the undercard against Josip Perkovic. A unanimous decision over 8 there. Stephen Ward now 10-0. Another win there for Tyrone McKenna. He's now 18-1 with one draw. Points win over 6 rounds against Oscar Amador. Steve Collins Jr. picked up win number 14. He's got 2 losses and a draw. A points win over 6 against Arturs Kolkuskis, who is now 18-40 with 7 draws. Yeah, it was what it was, that one, really. Moving out now to the Seagulls Rugby League Club in Tweed Heads, New South Wales, Australia, of course. This one over here, we saw Jason Maloney, the guy that crashed out of the World Boxing Super Series, one half of the Maloney twins. He moved to 18 wins. He's got the 1 loss. It was a knockout in round 5 against Chris Paulino, who's now 19-4. It was for the WBA Oceania Bantamweight title. Maloney, a good fighter. Moving out now to Bilbao, though, at the País Vasco in the Bilbao Arena, Spain. Unbelievable, this one, by the way. We saw Kerman Leharaga 27-0 took on David Avanesyan, friend of the show, the Russian that's been out there to the States, fought the likes of Mosley, fought the likes of Peterson, fought the likes of Igis Kavalauskis. He certainly had the experience, in my opinion, over Leharaga. I said that on last week's show. It was for the EBU European welterweight title, Leharaga's belt. And yeah, Leharaga himself got knocked out in round 9. An absolutely huge upset there. for Avanesyan. But like I say, not in my eyes. I actually thought that Avanesyan would win on points, but he was able to stop him. I think he had him down once or twice early on in the fight also, if I'm not mistaken, but a great finish, and the referee jumped in and stopped it after he took a real hiding and a real series of unanswered shots in that 9th and final round. But I've got to say, Lejaraga's quite a classy guy. He took his belt out and just kind of waved goodbye to it and showed it to the fans in the arena and basically handed it over to Avanesyan right there and then himself. So he's a classy guy, and perhaps we'll see a rematch. I'm not quite sure, but Avanesyan now, as I'm sure you'll agree, this makes the Josh Kelly fight much, much bigger. After he lost that fight on the day of the actual fight being scheduled, when he lost that fight from his grips and it wasn't going to happen, he didn't really have many other places to turn to. I mean, I spoke to his manager, and his manager said to me, well, we're looking at the Lejaraga fight, and I thought, well, that's not going to pay the same, surely, and also you're going to have to go to Bilbao for it, and you're not going to get any luck on the scorecards, but he didn't need those judges, and it's a brilliant thing here for him. Really, really pleased for him, but a cracking win. We certainly want to see that Josh Kelly fight. Like I say, Ayaz, I'm sure that you agree. Avanesyan now 24-3 with 1 draw, and Lejaraga served up his first L, 27-1. Bradley Skeet couldn't do it, and Frankie Gavin couldn't do it. But that's it for Spain. Moving out now to Southampton at the Novotel. As I heard that you like to take the women here every Friday or Saturday. Joe Pigford, he moved to 15-0, a TKO in round 3 against Adam Grabich. I've seen him on the circuit before. He's now 7-25, a journeyman there, but good stuff for Pigford to get the stoppage. A very good fighter, very underrated. I want to see him moved on. I want to see him signed with a big promoter, to be honest. Moving out now, though, to the Echo Arena in Liverpool, Merseyside, United Kingdom, the Sky Sports card. Yeah, it was a bit of a mad one, to be honest. Natasha Jonas moved to 7 wins. She's got the 1 loss, a points win over 6 against Farish Mashauri. It wasn't the best fight, to be honest. Mashauri now 7-3. Natasha Jonas, of all the ladies that have turned over, the likes of Nicola Adams, the likes of Katie Taylor, Chantel Cameron, the rest of them, she's just trailing. Not in the looks department, by the way, but just trailing in the boxing department. Obviously, that loss to Vivian Obernauf. Moving up the card once again, Paul Butler returned. He moved to 28 wins. He's got 2 losses, a points win over 6 against Fadihi Majiha, who's now 23-13 with 4 draws. Not really sure the point of that fight, to be honest. Craig Glover, the prospect, he had 9 wins, 1 loss going into this fight against Vaclav Pejar, who is now 14-7, because Pejar was able to TKO Craig Glover in the second round. He was also down in the first round, Glover. A huge upset there. I think that Glover is something to do with Tony Bellew. I think Bellew perhaps manages him. That was drama. And moving up the card once again, 4 fights to mention really here. The 4 big ones, the 4 ones that were televised. Well, also the Natasha Jonas fight was televised, but the other 4, the big 4 if you like. David Price, Ayaz, 23-6, now 24-6. Not the way we expected the fight to go. We didn't really think it'd go the distance, but we certainly didn't see it ending under these circumstances. Cash Ali really let himself down. He was going into the fight with a record of 15-0, if I'm not mistaken, and it's a real shame. I mean, what a way to lose your O, getting disqualified for something completely stupid. I mean, it wasn't like he was hitting him low by accident repeatedly, or the heads went in a few times accidentally. There's absolutely no reason why you should lunge forward and try and bite your man. And yeah, it was mad, because he had a point deducted for doing it in the... he had a point deducted for pulling Price's head down, I believe, in the earlier rounds. But he certainly bit David Price in the earlier rounds, and then he once again bit him. I mean, he got told off the first time. There was a little mark, I think, on Price's shoulder, and then, of course, the final time was just unbelievable. The bite mark was so clear, and he's really let himself down. What did you make of the fight, though, Ayaz?
I mean, what can I say? Cash Ali, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it wasn't the best performance from David Price, to be fair. David Price should have got him out really early. I mean, he was obviously, David Price did do good. Cash Ali was going for him again. At one point, David Price actually hurt Cash Ali towards, obviously, the 5th round, when David Price actually hurt him. Cash Ali was just holding on to him and bit him. I mean, that shouldn't happen in boxing. I mean, it's 2 performances that David Price hasn't really performed really well, but I mean, at the end of the day, he's got to disqualify. Cash Ali got disqualified, and it's a win record for David Price.
Yeah, it was interesting while it lasted. I mean, Price was on the back foot in the first round, and straight away I thought, oh dear, Cash Ali was backing him up. In the second round, though, that was where Price actually started coming out on the front foot kind of thing. In the third round, like I say, that was where Ali had a point, took off. He was starting to throw desperate overhand rights as well, and that was where he pulled his head down, had that point, took off. And also, Price was investing in the body, and I quite liked the look of his right hooks to the body. He was doing really well with those. And then, yeah, like I say, the fourth round was a decent round. Price was coming on strong. In the fifth round and the final round, like I say, it was just about heating up, really. Price looked in trouble himself, and then I'd even say it was big trouble. And then he found a big shot out of nowhere. He wobbled Ali, and Ali held on, and that's when the pair fell on the floor. And for no reason, completely unprovoked, Ali bit him again, and that was the second time, and the referee DQ'd him. I mean, it wasn't clear to see what happened initially. When the referee waved it off, I was gutted, to be honest, because Ali was having a good round. I mean, until he got hurt a few seconds before the pair fell on the floor. But he started the round great. He was really hitting Price with clean shots. Price looked in all types of trouble, and then you'd have never thought at the start, during that attack on Price, that by the end of the round, Ali would be disqualified for biting him once again. It was just absolutely stupid. He's really let himself down there. What a way to lose your undefeated record. Moving up the bill once again, though. Joe Hughes, 17-4 now with one draw. He took on friend of the show, Robbie Davies Jr., 18-1. It was for Robbie Davies' British title and also Joe Hughes' European super lightweight title. A brilliant win there for Robbie Davies Jr. I think one or two of the cards was a bit wide in my opinion. I think it was a very close fight, a kind of like 7-5, 8-4 perhaps type fight. I think that the right man did get it. I wasn't strictly scoring it either, but, that's a fight where we all predicted a win there for Robbie Davies Jr. So that happened. We all gained a point there on the predictions. We all also thought that Price, I think, would win by knockout. No one saw a DQ, so that didn't count there. No one gained a point. But like I said, good win there for Robbie Davies Jr. and his manager, Neil Marsh, also manages David Avanesyan. So he went into Saturday with two guys fighting for European titles, and both men got the wins, and that's brilliant for him. He's now got two European champions on his hands. We'll be speaking to him later on in the show. Moving up the card once again, Ayaz, this one was unbelievable. Anthony Fowler, 9-0, took on Scott Fitzgerald, 12-0. A split decision over 10 for Scott Fitzgerald. He beats Anthony Fowler. It was for the vacant WBA International Super Welterweight title. Of course, Fitzgerald, on the day of the weigh-in, struggled a little bit to make the weight. He made it on the third attempt, and the fight was it was okay for the first few rounds. It wasn't a bad fight. It was interesting. I think Fowler was doing really well with his jab and stuff like that. I will go into more detail in just a moment, but obviously the drama really came in the later part of the fight where Fowler was dropped in the 10th and final round, but he was able to survive and it went to points. And I think I actually had it a draw, if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to check my scorecard in a second, but very, very good fight, and I wouldn't complain about a rematch happening there. But brilliant stuff for Scott Fitzgerald. Ayaz, no one backed him to win on points at all.
I mean, yeah, what a performance by Scott Fitzgerald. I mean, at the start, you could tell for the first 2-3 rounds, right? Anthony Fowler was winning the rounds, in my opinion. Anthony Fowler was backing him up, hitting him with the jab. I mean, his head movements, obviously, as the later rounds went on, Scott Fitzgerald was hitting him really, with the jab, using the hook. I mean, Scott Fitzgerald, to be fair, he was much bigger on the night. You could see the size of him, his muscle. 4, 5, 6, 7. I had all the rounds to Scott Fitzgerald. And round 8, I had Anthony Fowler. Round 9, I had Scott Fitzgerald. And then that's when it came to the last round. And in Mark, we saw obviously Anthony Fowler was winning the fight at one point. But then when it got to round 10, you could see that Scott Fitzgerald in my opinion, Scott Fitzgerald could have actually stopped Anthony Fowler, but decided not to because he just wanted to showboat. But I mean, it's a big win for Scott Fitzgerald. It reminded me a bit of the James DeGale fight when they were both about to become rising stars, and George Groves went on to win the fight, and he was the underdog, and James DeGale was the main guy that was going to win this fight. It reminded me of that fight a bit, and you can see Scott Fitzgerald. Obviously, he was a huge underdog going into this fight. But I mean, it's a big win. But I'll tell you something, Anthony Fowler will come back. I mean, in my eyes, I think he's a great fighter, and I think he'll bounce back. I mean, it's just for him. It's just a learning game. Obviously, they both fought in the amateurs. Anthony Fowler won in that fight, but obviously in the pro ranks, Scott Fitzgerald won. I think there will be a rematch, but I think I think let them progress in their career, and then hopefully they'll meet sometime in the future.
Yeah, very well said, Ayaz. Going through the fight, I mean, in my opinion, the first round was very close. I think that both men got off with good jabs. I felt that there was probably more activity coming from Fowler, but it was a good round. I gave the first one to Fowler. The second round was another close round. I think Fowler started well. Fitzgerald finished well. I think Fowler, once again, just about edged it. But like I say, the first 2 rounds were real close, and he just on my card edged both of them. And that's probably where some people will straight away disagree with my scorecard, and that's why I had it very close at the end, because those first 2 rounds I gave to Fowler. I also gave him the third round, actually. Once again, he displayed some great jabs. He was popping the head back multiple times of Fitzgerald, and there was just more variety in Fowler's work. The pair also did have a moment each where they landed 2 big shots, but like I say, 3 rounds to 0 for Fowler. Very controversial. In the fourth, it was a better round for Fitzgerald. Fowler actually had to dig deep. He looked like he was starting to feel the pace of the fight, so certainly there a Fitzgerald round. The fifth round, there was great head movement from Fitzgerald. I was really impressed with that. Once again, it was a close round. It was hard to really split the pair. There was a head clash that caused a cut on Fowler's eye, and I actually had that fifth round a 10-10 round, to be honest with you, and I don't like doing that, but I had it a 10-10. In the sixth round, I felt like Fitzgerald was fighting to a game plan. He was brilliant the way he kept himself so cool. He was real composed in there. He definitely won that round. He had the confidence in his work. He was busier than Fowler. So I had it 3-2 with one drawn round there after 6. Going into the seventh round, that was where the commentary team gave the round to Fitzgerald. But I actually thought that Fowler did enough despite eating 2 big right hands late on. So there I had it 4-2 to Fowler with one split round after 7. In the... I think it's where are we now? The 8th round here. A definite Fitzgerald round. I was, like I said, really shocked how fresh he looked in there. He had been the distance before in a 10-rounder, I believe. Anthony Fowler hadn't been past 6. Perhaps that was playing a part there. In the 9th round, like I say, a crazy start to the round from Fowler. He absolutely pasted Fitzgerald around the ring. He looked on the verge of getting the stoppage, actually, and Fitzgerald could not get out the way. He really showed a real granite chin, and he ate some huge shots, hooks, uppercuts, the lot. And to his credit, he soaked up the pressure, and he actually finished pretty strong himself. So certainly a Fowler round. Very, very easy round to score. So that's 5-3 with one drawn round. Of course, that means I've got Fitzgerald trailing by 2 points going into the last round, but of course it was a 10-8 round, so a draw on my card. But anyway, in that 10th round, you mentioned there, Ayaz, down went Fowler. He was hurt badly, and the initial shot that hurt him was the massive right uppercut, followed by 3 left hooks. Fowler went down heavy, the legs were gone. He got back up, he held on, credit to him for that. He had to answer some huge questions, but yeah, it was quite frustrating when Fitzgerald backed off of Fowler. It was like a real stupid thing to do in a fight that close, I thought that they could have jobbed him on the cards, really, but he seemed to be quite confident that they wouldn't, because he backed off of him. And really, in a fight, like I say, that close, you want to be going in for the knockout there. You shouldn't leave it in the judge's hands, but thankfully the right man won. Well, that's in many people's eyes. In my eyes, I think it was a draw. So I'd have been turning in a drawn scorecard there. So thank God I wasn't a judge on the panel. But a bit silly of him to not get to not try and get the knockout. He really laid off of him. And that 10-8 round had it a draw on my scorecard. But that is about it for that one. Both men rack up a draw. So unbelievably, when we say someone's O's got to go, not necessarily. They're still undefeated, both men. Going into the main event, though, Liam Smith, former world champion, 26-2 with one draw, took on Sam Eggington, 24-5. It was for the vacant WBC silver super welterweight title. Not quite sure what either man have done to really deserve to fight for the silver title, but it is what it is. It ended up being a TKO in the 5th round. For me, it was very obvious to see. I think I thought before the fight that Smith would get the knockout within 6 rounds, perhaps even within 4 rounds. It ended up taking him 5 rounds, but yeah, it was a formality for me before the fight, unfortunately. Smith was just a number of levels above his man. He was in a totally one-sided fight. it was sad to see Eggington being fed to a guy like Smith. I mean, you've got to suspect that Barry Hearn's soft spot for Eggington has evaporated. It was a total mismatch, and we all knew it going in, I felt. It was a terrible main event. It wasn't worthy of being a main event. I said that all along. I hope that Eggington got paid well, and I think he should probably hang up the gloves, to be honest. I mean, he's achieved some great things. He hoped to just be a journeyman, and, you know, he was much more than that. He did a lot of fantastic stuff. He brought us some big nights, brought us some great wins. You know, the Malignaggi win, you know, a few others and stuff like that, and even the Frankie Gavin win. I mean, he really exceeded expectations, and he's had a great career, but I can't really see him going anywhere now after all the punishment he's took. Any closing words really there, Ayaz, on the Liam Smith-Eggington fight, or nothing?
I mean, it was just a good win for Liam, obviously, getting back to winning ways. I mean, he does. I mean, I think he'll fight for a world title in the future, but a fight that I'd like to see him fight would be Kell Brook against him.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that is a good fight, actually. That'd be an interesting fight, I gotta say so. Moving out now, though, to the Fantasy Springs Casino in Indio, California, USA. One fight to mention over here, really. Ryan Garcia, 17-0, took on Jose Lopez, 20-3 with one draw. Lopez was actually down in round 2, and then he didn't want to come out for round 3. He retired on his stall, so another stoppage win there for Ryan Garcia, the new father, of course. Moving out now to the Grand Theatre in New Albany, Indiana, USA. Friend of the show, Dusty Hernandez Harrison, returned to the ring after about 3 years out of it. He picked up a win. He's now 31-0 with one draw, a knockout in the first round against Bruce Rumbles, who's now 22-36 with 2 draws. Welcome back, Dusty, a good fighter. I'd like to see him pushed on. Like I say, he was world ranked with the IBF at welterweight, and then just as he was kind of closing in on, I think, perhaps the top 7 or 8 places, something like that, I'm guessing he ran into some promotional problems and he hasn't fought since. Still a young guy, though. Moving out now, though, to the final bill to mention at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, USA. 2 fights really to mention over here. Ray Robinson, the home fighter from Philly, 24-3 with one draw now. He took on Egis Kavaliauskas, the man that blitzed David Avanesyan, to be completely honest, but Egis Kavaliauskas actually got held to a majority draw, so that one was for the NABF welterweight title. Yeah, not too impressive there from Kavaliauskas. And topping the bill, Alexander Gvozdyk, he put his WBC World Light Heavyweight title on the line against Dudu Ngumbu, who's now 38-9. A TKO in round 5 for Gvozdyk. It was a strange one, really. I saw the tape of Ngumbu before the fight, and they were saying, you know, what does it mean to your family? He's from a real poverty-stricken place, and they said, what does it mean to your family that you're a boxer fighting for a world title? And he actually started crying, and you know, to see a man that tough cry, it kind of makes you think, do you know what, I like this guy, I want to get behind this guy, I want to see him do well, I want to see him achieve great things. Well, yeah, it just wasn't to be. It was a decent-ish fight while it lasted, but unfortunately, something happened with his leg. I think he pulled his calf muscle or something, and he just couldn't continue because his leg had gone. He couldn't really walk properly on the leg, and yeah, that was what it was. So TKO because he pulled a muscle on his leg or twisted his ankle or something like that. It was something to do with his leg. I think it was a calf injury. So very unfortunate. I mean, how bad is that for luck in a world title fight on the biggest stage possible, and that kind of thing happens there. That's his 9th loss, probably be his final world title fight there. But that's about it for the review part of the show. Just before we wrap up part 1, the last thing to do, of course, is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBO middleweight world champion himself. It is, of course, Mr. Peter Quillin. Peter, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Peter. So, of course, you turned pro back in 2005 now, almost 15 years as a pro, coming up soon. I, of course, just want to go back and visit that excellent night for yourself on October 20th in 2012. Yourself against Hassan Ndam. You were both 27-0. You came out victorious after dropping Ndam 6 times. Please tell us about that fight. Can it ever be topped, that success there for you, Peter?
Well, can it be topped? I think every matchup could be topped, but I'm not looking to do that. I'm looking to create every moment to be different from the next one. So, you know, that one is one of my past experiences, one of my greatest experiences. But I'm pretty sure we're looking to create more moments in the super middleweight division.
And of course, you won the world title that night. You gathered 3 successful defences. Then, of course, you vacated it. Looking back now, Peter, have you got any regrets about that part of your career?
No, I don't never have regrets, so I don't dwell on anything in the past. I think it always shaped you to be a better man in the future.
I like that mindset, my friend. And the Andy Lee fight, I just want to visit that also. I mean, you were coming off a year layoff. I remember staying up late that night to watch the fight. A brilliant fight. You were both down during the fight. You fought to a draw. What was that like? What's Andy's power like, Peter?
Oh, it was a top-notch quality fight for me. I was having weight problems during that fight, and I'm pretty sure, that fight was a good, memorable fight for me as well because of who Andy Lee was, and following the story for so many years, and actually got to fight him. It was my pleasure. So I'm glad to be able to have that fight underneath my belt.
Yeah, it was a fantastic fight, like I say. And then, of course, you went on to beat Zerafa. You stopped him in 5. Then came the Daniel Jacobs fight, and I picked you very strongly to win that fight. I remember having no doubt in my mind that you'd win that fight, and obviously it went horribly wrong. You were stopped in a round. What seemed to go wrong there without dwelling in the past, like you say, too much, Peter?
Well, I think that fight, it made me better as a person. And it happened. I lost to a better fighter, and, he's going on to do great things, but we're looking to create new moments, and I'll put that fight behind.
And obviously after that, you were away from the ring for 2 years. I know that your partner had a baby. What kept you away for such a long time, Peter? It seemed like you were gone forever. I mean, I missed you. I know a lot of boxing fans missed you. What kept you away so long?
What kept me away so long is just like trying to find my way, trying to find who I would train with. Where would I be, where I was at, where I stand with my family, it's just a lot of different things, but, all the timing and the right moment for me to come back, it was set up for the right time.
And you've returned back, you've had 2 wins now, you're up at super middleweight, obviously the first win against Deshaun Johnson, and most recently a win back in August over J. Leon Love. Do you feel better at super middleweight, or, are you only up at super middleweight because 160 was a struggle? I mean, how are you feeling at 168, Peter?
I feel very good. I feel everything is down to the science. It's a better weight class. I feel strong. This is the weight that I'm supposed to be at, and I should have been here a long time ago, but we're going to just create some moments at 168 pounds, and I'm going to stay focused.
And your next fight, you'll be taking on Caleb Truax, a man that's been on this podcast a bunch of times in the past. The fight takes place on April 13th in Minnesota. What do you know about Truax, Peter?
I know he was a former sparring partner. We had a couple of sparring partners, sparring sessions with each other. We got some experience with each other. So, but it's all around a good quality fight for the fans. Hopefully, they tune in and they agree with me when I say that it's going to be animal status written all over this fight.
And Truax mentioned a particular sparring session. I believe he said it took place back in 2012 before the Ndam fight for you. And he actually said as soon as the spar ended, he felt like he would be able to beat you in a fight if that happened. What can you tell us about the spar? Was it perhaps more competitive than you'd expect?
I gave him an uppercut and knocked his headgear off. He called it a malfunction. I call it a punch that knocked his headgear across the ring. I had everybody in the Wildcard looking at the ring, and you can't really judge what he do. Like, he went in the sparring, and I had other sparring partners. So he would come in, and a guy come in after him. So, like, when you see the way I work, it's like, what do you actually see? Like, I never met nobody ever to say they sparred somebody and what they will be able to do in a fight. I'm a totally different fighter. His track record is not even on my level to be able to say, though, make a comment like that. So I don't pay no mind to it. There's no way he can get in my head about that. I don't even expect him to be the same man I was sparring. Like, even though I felt like I was whooping his ass, excuse my language, but, like, I don't feel like, I can even expect to fight that same guy I was sparring. I'm trying to get the best Caleb Truax, and I'm trying to get, and that's the one that I'm trying to beat.
And of course, you're right in saying that you've both come on since then. You become a world champion, he became a world champion. Those 2 back-to-back fights he had with James DeGale, what are you expecting from him, Peter? Will it be a competitive fight, this one? Do you anticipate that, or do you feel like you're still levels above the likes of Truax?
I'm a dominating.
Okay.
I'm going to dominate him. When I say dominate him, when I say dominate him, it's like he's going to put up whatever he's going to be able to do, and then I'm going to dominate him. He's not going to be able to. I'm going to control the whole pace of the fight.
Do you see yourself perhaps stopping Truax, or do you see this going to the decision, if you want to say?
I've never been a guy that's going to stop somebody. I don't get paid for overtime, nor is it up to me if he wants to continue. If he's not strong enough, he's gonna fall down. He's not gonna get back up. If he's a strong fighter, he's gonna get back up. So like that's up to him.
Okay. And I'm guessing you must have one eye on the champions at 168. I mean, what are you making right now of the division? Of course, you've got the likes of Anthony Durrell, David Benavidez, Callum Smith, Caleb Plant, Gilberto Ramirez, Billy Joe Saunders is actually moving up to 168 also. You've got Eubank Jr. knocking around. A real exciting division right now.
I crossed that road once I get to it, but nothing is possible without me being Caleb Truax right now.
Okay, I want to get your view on one other fight that's happening at middleweight, if you don't mind, Peter. Daniel Jacobs, your former opponent, takes on Canelo May the 4th. How do you see that one unfolding? Good fight.
It's a definitely top-quality fight. Daniel Jacobs definitely got the confidence to be a winner. Canelo is the superstar of the sport right now, so it'll be an interesting fight to see.
All right, and coming down to the last couple questions. Peter, I like to ask this question to everybody that we speak to from overseas. Who's your favourite UK fighter from any era? It can be a guy that's still fighting now. It can be a guy that's retired years and years ago. Who comes to mind when I ask you that question, sir?
Man, there's so many of the names that is just, I had the decency to spar Carl Froch. I got to spar him.
Wow.
Amir Khan, I'm really good friends with him. There's tons of guys that I'll just be limiting myself because there's so many guys out there that's like, I just love the whole, state of boxing there. They seem like they support their fighters. Like Anthony Joshua right now is the one that's the hot ticket, you know what I'm saying? So I would just say, if it's an example that the UK can set for American fans is to support their fighters.
And you've got a fan base over here, Peter, and not a lot of guys,
Sure. I want to come over there, man.
Exactly.
Invite me over there.
Hey, the invites.
I would love to come.
The invite's open, but listen, please just send a message to anyone that's listening to this interview from overseas, over here. Your UK supporters. What's your message to the guys that support you here, this side of the water, sir?
Man, I'm to have a pleasure to be able to be, have fans in the UK is a pleasure of mine. I will be blessed to be able to come there and see you guys soon and spend time with you guys, and hopefully, you guys will get me over there very, very soon.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, a win over Truax, that opens up a lot of doors. Of course, you've got the likes, like I said, of Chris Eubank Jr., of Callum Smith. So hopefully we do get to see you over here in the near future, Peter. But listen, it truly has been a pleasure of mine having you on this week's show. Thank you for your time and best of luck for April 13th.
Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, not too much has gone on. What have you got for us?
Right. Obviously, due to Cash Ali biting David Price, he has now been suspended by the British Board Control.
Yeah, no surprise. I don't really want to go into it too much. I kind of aired my frustrations with what he did in part 1. Very stupid, but he's got what he deserved, really, I suppose. I don't want to see him doing that again. There's no need for it. I mean, unless you're going to do a full Mike Tyson and take chunks out of someone's ear, then there's no point. No, I'm only playing. He shouldn't be doing that silly stuff, and he's now being made to pay the price. That's it for the news, Ayaz, yeah?
That's it for the news.
Okay, short and sweet from Ayaz. Moving out now to the preview part of the show. Very, very limited amount of fights, really, this weekend. We're going to start. This is another crazy one. We're going to start in Dubai, okay, at the Emirates Golf Club. There's one fight to mention on this bill, and this is pretty crazy here. David Oliver Joyce a Irishman, takes on Stephen Tiffany, 10-1, a Scotsman, and David Oliver Joyce, 9-0. Like I say, both men, Irish and Scottish, they're fighting for a European featherweight strap, the vacant WBO European featherweight title in Dubai. It just sounds pretty crazy, but it is happening. It's an MTK show, so shout out there to Lee Eaton. That one would be crazy. I'm wondering how many media are flying out there from the UK to Dubai for that one. I wouldn't imagine too many. Moving out now to Germany, at Bayern, at the Bauhaus Forum. Over here we have heavyweight prospect, a guy here that I'm quite interested in, to be honest. His name's Peter Milas, and the reason why I'm interested in him, he's undefeated, 13-0 with 10 knockouts. He's only 23. He actually stopped Kevin Johnson in 8 rounds. So he did something that Nathan Gorman couldn't do. He did something that Daniel Dubois couldn't do. And for that reason there, it makes me think, hey, this guy is probably quite a good fighter. He's 6'4.5", like I say, 23, a Croatian fighter, perhaps one to look out for in the future. He fights here for the vacant EBU European Union heavyweight title, so not the proper European strap. But anyway, he takes on a guy called Cyril Leonet, who's 15-10 with 3 draws. I'm not really expecting him to, cause Milas any problems. I think it's an easy way to pick up another belt, really. But one thing I will say about Leonet, he took Tony Yoka 5 rounds. He got stopped though. Aside from that, no real other names to mention there. But yeah, that's it for Germany. Moving out now to Guatemala. This one is a crazy fight. It's happening at a venue called the Guatemala City Boxing Stadium, I think it is. Over here, a guy called Lester Martinez is making his debut in a 6-rounder. Nothing wrong with that, but there is a problem with his opponent. His opponent, Ricardo Mayorga, you may remember. Absolute nutcase. I was just watching his videos the other day where he smacked the behind of Shane Mosley's girlfriend. That was absolutely unbelievable when, of course, Mayorga and Mosley had their final fight and Mosley stopped him with that body shot. He's a complete nutcase, Mayorga. A good fighter, though. I mean, he was a complete nutcase, and he achieved some fantastic things. But anyway, he's being brought back here. He's way past his best. He hasn't fought, I think, for a couple of years. We've seen pictures of him asleep in gas stations in South America. But anyway, he's back here. His record 32-11 with 1 draw. And you're probably going to ask me, what weight's that at then? Because Mayorga, he's fought light in his career. Where is he? What weight's he fighting at? Light heavyweight. Unbelievable. I really want to see if there's any fight pictures of that, because his belly must be absolutely huge. Moving out now though to Poland at the Spodek in Katowice. 3 fights to mention over here. Damian Jonak, that guy with a real padded record, 41-0 with 1 draw. This fight was supposed to happen 1 or 2 times before. I think this is the 2nd or 3rd time it's been rescheduled. I think it was supposed to take place in December. He takes on our very own Andrew Robinson, a man that gave a hard fight to Frank Buglioni, actually. His record 22-4 with 1 draw, an 8-rounder there. Come on, Andrew Robinson. Show him what the British Heart's all about. Show him what a proper fight is, because he hasn't really been in any. Damian Jonak, 41-0 with 1 draw. Looks great there on the eye, but hasn't really boxed anyone. But also on the bill for the vacant Republic of Poland international heavyweight title. Unbelievably, Martin Bakole fights for this belt here. I'm not quite sure how he qualifies to fight for the Polish heavyweight title. It doesn't look very Polish to me. But anyway, Mariusz Wach in the other corner, 33-4. And like I say, Martin Bakole in the other corner, 11-1, coming off that loss to friend of the show, Michael Hunter. All the very best there to Martin Bakole. I like the guy, to be honest with you. Good fighter. He just wasn't good enough to beat Michael on that night there. Moving up the card once again, Robert Parzazewski. Definitely seen him before. 22-1. I've definitely seen him before. He fights for the vacant Republic of Poland, the international super middleweight title against Dmitry Chudanov. Certainly seen him before. Seen him take on Chris Eubank Jr. and absolutely eat those uppercuts like they didn't even hurt. 21-4 with 2 draws, Chudanov. And the final bill to mention at the Clackamas Armory in a place called Clackamas in Oregon, USA. Friend of the show, Steve Forbes. We had him on a couple of weeks ago. He's now 43 years of age, I believe it is. 35 wins, 14 losses. He's in a 7-rounder, which is really weird. Real weird stuff there. A 7-rounder against Tavoris Teague, who's now 6 6-25 with 4 draws. It's an easy, you'd imagine it's an easy fight back for Steve Forbes. Hasn't been in the ring for... the stats have left my head now. I think he hasn't been in the ring, was it 4 years? And he's coming off 6 back-to-back losses. He said that some of them have been controversial, but I'd love to see him win the fight. And if he has got, anything left, then perhaps he can achieve a couple of realistic stuff after that. But if he's just not good enough, then I'd like him to find out on that first fight before he puts his body through any other unnecessary pain. Really, I'd like to see him win that fight easy, or if it's a real struggle, then just don't even think about it, Steve. Good man. He's still got his wits about him. Good fighter. And 19 years since he won his world title, and he wants to be a contender 20 years later. All the very best to you, Steve Forbes. But that is about it for the preview part of the show. Just before we wrap up the entire show, the last thing to do is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a boxing manager with a bit of a buzz around him right now. It is, of course, Mr. Neil Marsh. Neil, welcome to the show.
Hi, Joey. You okay? Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Neil. It truly is. So, like I said, I don't want to keep you too long, Neil. I just simply want to discuss a couple of things. 2 of your men were fighting on Saturday for European titles. Obviously, Robbie Davies Jr. in Liverpool, David Avanesyan in Bilbao. On paper, Robbie, I think, was probably the slight favourite. Avanesyan was a total underdog. But both of your men were able to rip the European titles away from the reigning champions. You were sat ringside for Robbie in Liverpool on Saturday night, so let's start there. What did you make of his performance, Neil? Brilliant.
Yeah, Robbie's a tough boy. He had to grind a win out. We know it was a close fight, but before I stood up into the ring, I said to my team, "We've got this." I had it by 3. One of the judges had it 115, 114, 115, 113. The other judge was a little bit wider, but we all know a fight what can be 120, 108 can be a very tough war. As for Robbie's performance, he had to dig in deep. Spoke to him after the fight. He's a lot better than this, Robbie. Nothing against his performance. He really, really grinded hard. Joe Hughes is a lot trickier than people give credit for. He brought his A game. Robbie had to adjust inside the fight. What can I say? He became European champion, mate. Can he box a little bit better? Of course he can. But ultimately, he grinded the performance out, and I'm ecstatic now. I'm very pleased with how we dug deep against a smaller man, the aggressor. He took him into the trenches, and Robbie shown that he can also go in the trenches as well. He's not also that distance fighter and counterpunch what people think. He can fight as well, mate. So I'm very, very pleased with it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it was a brilliant performance. Like I say, I think a lot of people were perhaps overlooking Joe Hughes in the build-up, but Joe Hughes is strong as an ox, and like I say, it wasn't an easy task for Robbie, but a brilliant thing for him. He's had quite the journey now. But elsewhere in Bilbao, no judges were needed whatsoever here. David Avanesyan got the knockout in the 9th round. The thing that makes this win even sweeter is obviously that unfortunate situation where the Josh Kelly fight fell through on the day of the fight. It seemed like David didn't really have anywhere to turn, especially in terms of getting the same kind of payday, but he's gone away and he's won a proper title here against a proper fighter in proper style. Please tell us about it, Neil.
Oh, I'm ecstatic with this. I know the promoter Kerman Laranga. We nearly did the fight 12-14 months ago. I think it was before the Skeet fight. Now, obviously, the Kowalowski's fight came up, which was practically an eliminator for Terence Crawford. We had to move on from the Laranga fight. They went another way, where we went another way, and ultimately we revisited it. People say about how hard the fight is. We know that it was a dangerous fight. We know his record. We know what he's done to British kids. But after the Josh Kelly disappointment, what we did do, we've sat tight for the last year. Because when you're on the back of an heavy loss and you've lost your world title, getting that right fight at the right time is crucial for David. And I was a little bit tired of people saying, "Oh, he's a dangerous man. I'm sick of him," and I'm sick of these comments being said about it all the time. And collectively, me, Carl Greaves, the team, we knew David could beat Kerman. Now it's if David turned up. I'm not going to say he's saying we knew that had happened, because that's not true. but we knew that David was capable. Like most of the people in the UK know, if he turns up, he can do a number on people. I've seen it at high-level sparring. Not going to go into names. David can really fight when he turns up. And, you know, going to Bilbao, added extra to it. It was 10,000 people. I'm absolutely gutted I wasn't there, but I had to split my duties. You know, as a manager, both fights are equal. You'd normally pick the biggest fight, 2 European titles. I did the week in Bilbao with David, and then I did the fight night with Robbie in Liverpool. And everybody says about Kerman, the tactics were absolutely spot on. It was hurting him to the body, counter-punching, don't stand still, and it worked to perfection. And, you know, what can I say? The performance was exceptional, especially in Kerman's backyard.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one kind of thing that I think a lot of people were a little bit worried about, going out there to the backyard, a place where it seemed to obviously bother the likes of Bradley Skeet, but obviously David's well-travelled. I didn't really think the occasion would get to him. I said that on last week's show. If I'm not mistaken, did he have Leharaga down once or twice in the earlier rounds?
Yeah, he had him down in round 4. He caught him with a right hook to the head. It was perfect. You know, knowing how powerful he is and how David's defence was absolutely exceptional. And, you know, going away to Spain, you're always against the judges, and sometimes people go and want to throw 50, 60 punches, 100 punches, whatever, to outwork the Spaniard in his own backyard. But it was more finesse and more precise work, what Greaves had instructed, and collectively we decided that hurting him to the body, chiseling away at him, you know, instead of trying to win on the points, David was always going to come on strong. As you say, he's very well travelled. He's been in America 3 times. He's been Monte Carlo, the UK. He wasn't going to be faced in Bilbao. With not just that, the team's been together a long time. There's Alan Levine and Carl Greaves, and, you know, we've been in hostile environments. Same as the Shane Mosley fight. It was, you know, we're very experienced with it. So, you know, we was all prepared for it, mate.
And going on to another man that you manage, of course, you manage the undefeated British super middleweight champion, Zach Parker. Following Zach's fight with Williams, he, of course, had to undergo some surgery. How's he getting on at the minute? A lot of people were dying to see him fight again.
Yeah, he had a very serious injury. He detached his shoulder in 3 places. We got him in Manchester with a leading shoulder surgeon, Len Funk. He did the procedure before Christmas. He had a nice month of easy rehab and rest, and he then went to Blackpool and has committed 2 months of his life out of his comfort zone, leaving Derby at 5 o'clock on a Monday morning, and been in Blackpool all week with a leading physio in Jamie Murphy, who was the head of the sports physio department at Manchester City under Roberto Mancini. Real top-level physio. His rehab has gone to perfection. We're ready to get him signed off. There will be a fight announcement soon. So just watch this space. All I know is we did touch base with the rematch with Darryl Williams and Frank Warren's team, and just Darryl Williams has gone missing. So, you know, hopefully we can revisit that fight, but we're not going to hang around for anybody. And there should be an announcement in due course.
And I don't want to miss anyone out. We've mentioned Avanesyan, we've mentioned Zach, and of course we've just mentioned Robbie. Have I left anyone out? Is there anyone else that we should be mentioning here?
No, not at all. Just you know, I've been slowing down with my stable of fighters. I've only got the 3 fighters now. You know, and I'm happy. I'm happy where we are. Boxing's such a tough sport with the promoting and different things, and, you know, I have a lot of outside interest in different things. So I've got these 3 kids. I'm absolutely determined to take all 3 of them to a world title, and I'm going to throw all my power, endeavours, anything I possibly can at making this happen. The only people I'd like to mention is there's out there, you know, you get people who support you, get people who, you get haters, you get different things, but anybody who has supported me on my journey, because it's not just about what the manager did, ultimately it's what the fighters do inside the ring. They're the number one. But we also have a lot of people around us, like good coaches, strength and conditioning. We have good physios, and I'd just like to say thank you to each and every one of them, because without it, it wouldn't be possible. And whether you're buying a ticket for the lads or you're helping them train in the gym, I'm just so grateful for all the people who support us on this journey.
Oh, nice. And finally, I should have probably asked you this a few minutes ago. That Josh Kelly fight that seemed to just disappear. This win that David's had, does this push it further away, do you think, or perhaps closer?
Yeah, there was a lot made of the Josh Kelly pullout. Me and Adam Booth know what went on. I don't need to come onto your station and start calling him anymore. My statement made it loud and clear what I thought, and I still stand by everything I said. The Josh Keller, we wanted that fight. I asked Paul Reddy and Eddie a few times, and obviously they're going to do what's best for Josh. Everybody thought Avanesyan was on the way down. David Avanesyan would have beat Josh Kelly that night. I've got absolutely no doubt about it. We've sat, we waited for the right opportunity, and there was other offers which wasn't right, so we took the Loranga. But going on to Josh Kelly again, I wish any fighter all the best. I know it was very hard on him on social media. I know it was very hard on Adam Booth, and I do stand by my words, but I'm not going to carry it on now and start being criticising. But the Josh Kelly fight, I'm sure, will happen at some point in life. But why look back at what happened last year? We got really, really let down that night. We got promised a rematch. I asked Eddie Hearn a few times. He was so-called topping a bill in Newcastle. I think with Lewis Rickson. Tweets were going out that he's now no longer on the bill. He was moving up to light middleweight. I was just very sceptical of everything. And we had the Loranga fight. We wanted the Josh Kelly fight, but I just moved on. And going forward, when you've been, on the receiving end of such treatment, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't want to revisit that. Now, if Eddie comes up and makes us the right proposal, the right circumstances, not just, do you want this fight? Do you want Kelly? And, we need confidence in taking that fight. David Avanesyan has fought Lamont Peterson, Kavalauskas, he's fought, Shane Mosley's been in all these backyards everywhere. He's a real fighting man. And he will fight. There's no question, especially with the Loranga fight, that he will fight Josh Keller. He will fight him in a small sports centre. He'll fight him on a big Joshua bill. He'll fight him anywhere. But as a team, we're deflated over that fight. If Eddie gets on it, of course we'll open negotiations. But ultimately, there is a rematch clause in place with Kerman Loranga. They're very, very good people, the people of Spain. They deserve the rematch. I signed the document, and ultimately we need to oblige with that rematch. But if anything happens with that, because it wasn't heavy beating, what Kerman took, they may not want it. I think they've told me they want it, but until that point, we're not in a decision to take any other fights or negotiate any other fights. So for now, it's all on the Kerman Loranga rematch. If anything happens with that, obviously we'll look at what's about. But after that, I'm looking for a world title. I have delivered a few world titles for my lads, and I will deliver one for David again. But I don't see any difference in the result with Loranga. I think he'll beat him again if we do have to go to Spain again. But other than that, Josh Kelly's not on my thoughts. I wish him and Adam all the best. I was very critical of him, but I've moved on from that now, Joey, and that's it. That's life, I suppose. So for me, Josh Kelly, we will revisit if needed. If Eddie comes and gives us security, etc. But ultimately, at the moment, mate, it's not on my radar in any way.
No, that's completely understandable. Like I say, David picking up that big title there on Saturday night, I feel like he's in a position of power himself now, a much better one than before. Any closing words, Neil, just before we let you go? I know you got other things to do.
No, not at all. Thank you for your time. I don't do many interviews. I think every time boxing managers, promoters, they get a lot of haters attracting them and different things. So I try not to do them, but that's life, I suppose. I'm ecstatic, mate, and thank you to the fan support. Thank you for your recognition. Anybody who's recognised what happened, but ultimately it was the lads who did it for me. And words cannot explain in such a tough sport how delighted I am at what the lads did that night. I'm so proud of them. So that's my closing note, man. Thank you for your time.
Excellent, Neil, excellent. Listen, it is a pleasure having you on the show. I think you're probably the first manager that we've had on this podcast, so you'll always be our first. Congrats once again on gaining 2 new European champions on the weekend, and we'll catch up again soon, Neil.
Thank you very much for your time, mate. Take care, mate.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 181 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, the former WBO Middleweight World Champion Peter Quillin. He was definitely one of the most relaxed boxers that we've ever had on the show. And also a massive thank you to boxing manager Mr. Neil Marsh, which was a real enjoyable interview. I really enjoyed it. The prediction league currently stands at myself in the lead on 99 points. Ayaz and you, the listeners, are now tied on 92 points. This is because I gained 3 points last week with my Davies Jr. by decision, Gvozdyk by knockout, and Smith by KO predictions. You, the listeners, also gained 3 points by choosing the exact same predictions as me. And Ayaz, he only gained 2 points. He went with Gvozdyk by knockout and Davies Jr. on points, but he thought that Smith would win on points and not get the knockout. That obviously didn't happen. It is, remember, it is first to 100. I'm very, very close. There's no predictions this weekend as there aren't really any big juicy fights going on. There have been one or two bits of news break whilst we've been recording the show. Jordan Gill will now be topping a next-gen show in Nottingham on May 10th when he fights Enrique Tinoco. Tinoco, a guy that has been in there with the likes of Miguel Roman. He actually got stopped in his one stoppage defeat to Miguel Roman, but he's also gone the distance with the likes of Devin Haney and Mario Barrios, two other real good prospects that have been on this show actually. His record is 17-5 with 4 draws. Also on that same card, Lee Wood defends his Commonwealth featherweight strap against the former belt holder, Mr. Ryan Doyle. Charles Franken will also finally make his debut on that card as well. We've been waiting a little while for that. But that is about everything. Thank you all for listening once again to this week's podcast. Be sure to share, like, retweet, follow, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And we shall see you all again next week.